Alaikum again, everyone.
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
So since today is 15th of month of Ramadan, and I would like to congratulate all of you once again. Alhamdulillah, we had program yesterday in the center, but I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate everyone for this special occasion, the birth anniversary of our second Imam. Please recite aloud salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum.
So today I decided to go a little bit non-traditional way. So instead of giving a speech, I'm going to talk about this book called Jihad Al-Akbar, the greatest jihad. So basically this book is a compilation of several lectures that was given by Ayatollah Imam Khomeini. So what I'm going to do today, so I took some part. Of course, it's a whole book and we cannot, read the whole book, but I copied some part of it and I'm going to literally read, and so that we all can learn and reflect from it. So as I said, it's not going to be like a traditional speech today, but slightly different way. And inshallah, we will find, a lot of things that we can reflect upon and we can learn, inshallah. Please recite aloud salawat. Allahumma
salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum.
So this book is available on alislam.org, that you can also look at and read, inshallah. So this was available in Persian but translated by a man. I would like to go a little bit on the background on the translator as well. So the person who translated this book is Gary Carl Legenhausen. He was a Catholic, but then he's a revert. He became Shia, Alhamdulillah. So he was born in New York in 1953, still alive, 79-year-old. So he's an American professor. He holds a PhD in philosophy from Rice University, and his interests lie in Western philosophy, religion, Islamic philosophy. So there is a story behind this translation. Although there was a short translation available from this Jihad Al-Akbar, but he translated the whole the series of lecture that was in Persian. And as I said, the lecture was given by Imam Khomeini in the Hawza in Najaf when he was exiled during those times. So this book consists of the compilation. It's a compilation of those lectures. So there is a little background why he translated that book. So he himself wrote under the introduction of this book that, and I'm going to read exactly, that in New York City on West Broadway, there's a book store affiliated with Turkish Sufi order. And in the summer of 1993, I purchased a few books there, and one of the other customer, a black man wearing a small white cap, began talking with me. After exchanging salams and after I told him that I was working in Iran, he asked me whether I had ever seen a book by Imam Khomeini called Jihad Al-Akbar. So, and of course, he also mentioned in the introduction that he did not read that book or knew about that book at that time. And then later on in that discussion, that African-American man, he insisted that the Muslims in America had a real need for translation of Imam's work, and he was particularly interested in Jihad Al-Akbar, Alhamdulillah. So I'm quite amazed, like if you see that it's a 1993, like quite long back, and a people of color. And he said that the people in America, Muslims in America, had a real need for translation. So finally, he translated the whole book, although the part of it was available in English. And Alhamdulillah, the book is available on alislam.org. And inshallah, we all can read from there. So the next, I'm going to read some part, and so that we all can reflect from it. And of course, I cannot cover the whole book, so I just took some important part that I felt that we should discuss and we should read through. So in the first chapter of that book, there's a recommendation for the seminaries of religious learning. And of course, Imam Khomeini is talking to the student, but there's a lot of teachings that we can learn out of it. It's not like it's just for the student in the house. It's for everyone. And as I said, I'm going to read some part of it. So in that book, Imam, in the Imam lecture, Imam said that simultaneous with the study of scholarly matters, the seminaries of religious learning are indeed of teaching and learning in moral and spirituality. It is necessary to have moral guides, trainers for the spiritual abilities, and sessions for advice and counseling. So what Imam is saying, of course, to those students, that of course you should learn the rulings and Islamic jurisprudence and other things, Islamic philosophy. But at the same time, the irfan is very important. And here I would like to mention that it was Imam Khomeini who started teaching people, or bringing, if I say, if I use another word and say that it was Imam Khomeini who brought irfan to the general public, to the masses. Because before that, ilm irfan, there were sessions and some people who were worthy of it were attending those, but not like a general public. Those session was not for the general public, but through his writing and lectures, Imam was able to introduce to the general public. And he, rest of his life, he also focused too much about it. So programs in ethics and moral reform, classes in manner and refinement, instruction in divine learning, which are the principal aim of the mission of the prophets, peace be upon them, must be officially instituted in seminaries. And of course, this is also for us as well, that in our own day-to-day life, even though we are not, unfortunately, the students of seminaries, we do not have, at least we are busy in our life here, not have ability to learn there. But at least in our own day-to-day life, we should think about the ethics and moral reform. And this is the reason why I picked this book and wanted to just read some part from it, so that we can learn something out of it, and inshallah. So the next, Imam said that in some of the town in which I went during the summer, I saw the people of a town were well-mannered with religious morals. The point is that they had an alim who was righteous and pious. If an alim who is pious and righteous lives in a community, town, or state, his very existence will raise the refinement and guidance of people of that realm, even if he does not verbally propagate and guide. This is so important if you think about it. And of course, in his lecture, he's talking about an alim, he's talking about a scholar, but how about us? Sometimes even I have personally experienced in our own friend and families and communities, that sometimes we are so much worried about others, like the people, other Muslims who are not necessarily Shia, what they do, but we sometimes do not think about our own refinement. If we refine ourselves by doing this and by practicing the Islam in a very refined way, people will learn from us. We don't have to just go out and say things, they will learn from us. So this was really encouraging to me, and we can definitely ponder upon this. In the next chapter, there's the importance of the refinement and purification of soul. And this is so important, and I was really astonished by this. that when evil enters knowledge in this center, the product will be evil, root and branch and evil tree. However, much these concepts are accumulated in a black impure heart, that which covers them will be greater. In a soul which is unrefined, knowledge is a dark cover. Al-ilm huwa al-hijab al-akbar. Allahu Akbar. I mean, if you think about this, the knowledge is the greatest cover. I mean, sometimes we don't refine ourselves, and of course we know few things, we do some practices, but the darkness is inside, and then a little ilm, and this is, I'm talking about myself, and I was really, I mean, I really had to think about after reading this that al-ilm huwa al-hijab al-akbar, and I was thinking myself that just having a very little minute knowledge, I mean, how their knowledge really cover the darkness inside. And it was really something I was just thinking for a long time, and inshallah we all can think about it. So he also mentioned the Ayatollah Abdul Karim Hayri Yazdi, and some of you might know that the Ayatollah Abdul Karim Hayri Yazdi was a teacher of Imam Khomeini. He said that, and there was a saying where Ayatollah Yazdi was mentioning, the saying was, how easy it is to become a mullah, how difficult it is to become a man. So this is a proverb people used to say, but he said it is not correct. Actually, it should be said, how difficult it is to become a mullah, and it is impossible to become a man. If you think about this, and I would like to remind you about the Friday talk given by Brother Najafi, an excellent talk. Think about that. I mean, how difficult are, and even the saying where Ayatollah Yazdi used to say that it's almost impossible to become a man. So here, they're talking about the man with all the manifestation that Allah wants him to become that man. It really takes a lot. And if you all think about it, it's so true that how difficult it is to become a man. So merely knowing terminology is not effective. Even the knowledge of the divine unity, which is Tawheed, if it is not accompanied with purity of the soul, it will bring disaster. And then Imam gave an example that how many individuals have been ulama with knowledge of monotheism and have perverted the whole group of people. And it's so true. And even we see in our, some community and some places that how we are divided, and unfortunately, sometimes the ulama has some role in that as well. And then I quoted some other part that you must make effort in the path of self-reformation. So those lectures that Imam Khomeini was giving at that time was about the self-reformation. However, it was addressed to the student, but we all can learn from it, inshallah. So moving forward, the next chapter of the book was Divine Blessings. And I would like to read here that because Allah favors his servants, Allah the Blessed and Supreme gave them intellect. He gave them the power to refine and purify themselves. He sent the Prophet and awliya to guide people and to help them to reform themselves so that they do not fall into the severe punishment of hell. If these preventatives do not cause the awareness and refinement of man, God, the merciful, will make him aware through other means by various difficulties, afflictions, poverty, and illness, and so forth and so on. So if you think about that, these difficulties are indeed blessing, actually. It's a warning, because Allah loves us so much, and he doesn't want us to go into hell or go astray. So he gives he warns us through these things. And then the next step is, if a servant is blessed by God, he will be faced with these difficulties until he turns his attention to Allah the Almighty and is refined. And unfortunately, if that's not the case, if misled man is not cured and he does not deserve the blessings of heaven, when his soul is drawn from him, there will be much more pressure on him. So perhaps he will return and be aware. Again, if he is not affected, then in the grave, in the world of Barzakh, and in the terrible, perilous events which take place after death, he will suffer pressures and chastisement until he become purified and refined, and he will not go to hell. And this is indeed for us, actually. So this is those who will go to Jannah, inshallah, who have faith, but they have not purified themselves. They have to go through it so that they can get purified, and then they can enter into the Jannah, inshallah. So all these are the blessings from Allah to prevent man from going to hell. What then, if with all these blessings and favors from Almighty Allah, he is still not cured, then there is no other alternative but the last cure, which is that he should be burned. And as Quran quotes in Ayah 7, in Surah 78, Ayah number 23, living therein for ages. So it has been reported that the ages mentioned here are for those who have been guided, those the basis of whose faith has been preserved. This is for me and you. If we are believers, each age lasts for thousands of years. How many only Allah knows. God forbid that if we reach such a state that these cures are not effective, so that for the deserving and meriting the everlasting blessing, this final cure is required. So this is for the faith, people who have faith, actually. If through all these difficulties in this world, and then before, during the qabr and barzakh, if the heart is so blackened, if it is not finally cured, then the person has to go into the hell, where they will live for ages before they are finally cured. And this is not, Allah is not talking about the people, because the whoever will go into the hell will go forever. So this ayat is not for those who will live in the Jahannam, in the hellfire forever. This is for those who has some problems, although they have faith, and then finally they will be returned and entered into the Jannah, inshallah. So now, while you cannot bear to keep a hot stone in your hand for a minute, keep the fire of hell away. And this is something really, on this blessed month of Ramadan, we have to think about. So moving forward, the next chapter in the book is the point regarding the intimate devotions, that is munajat of month of Shaban. Although the month of Shaban has passed, but this is the reminder for next year, inshallah ta'ala. So in this munajat, we read, "O Allah, grant that I may be perfectly cut off from all else but you, and enlighten the vision of our hearts by the radiance of vision toward you, until the visions of the heart tear through the curtains of light and attach to the source of greatness, and our soul come to belong to your exalted sanctity. So this is from the Munajat Shabaniya. Here, the most important thing is that, O God, grant that I may be perfectly cut off from all else but you. So that prior to the blessed month of Ramadan, divinely aware people should get ready and prepare themselves for cutting themselves off and avoiding worldly pleasure. So in order to welcome the month of Ramadan, inshallah, it's a reminder for next year, inshallah, for me and you all, so that we can prepare ourselves in the month of Shaban, so that we can enter that blessed month, inshallah. Although we are in the blessed month and we can, inshallah, although the half of the month is gone, but we still have, inshallah, the rest half of the month. And of course, the great nights, they're going to come, inshallah, and we can get benefit out of it. So here, cut yourself off from the shaitan among human and jinn. Although we ourselves apparently cannot aspire to reaching such a valuable state of felicity, at least try to see to it and your fast is not accompanied by sin. Allahu Akbar. Otherwise, even if your fast is correct from the point of view of Islamic law, it will not be a sin to be accepted by Allah. There is a big difference between the ascension of one's work and their acceptance on the one hand, and their religious correctness on the other hand. So in this noble month, which you have been invited to divine banquet, if you do not gain insight, that is a marifat about Allah the Almighty, no insight into yourself, it means that you have not properly participated in the feast of Allah. You must not forget that in this blessed month, which is the month of Allah, in which the way of divine mercy is open to the servant of God, and the shaitans and devils, according to some reports, are locked in chain. So Alhamdulillah, we are already in this month of Allah, and we are invited actually in this month, and we are the guest, and we should at least think about it. So if you are not able to reform and refine yourselves and to manage and control your nafs al-ammara, the nafs which commands you, the commanding soul, to subdue your selfish lusts and to cut off your relations and interest with this world and material things, then after the end of the month of fasting, it will be difficult for you to be able to accomplish this. So this is the opportunity. Therefore, take advantage of this opportunity before the magnificent grace of it vanishes, and purify and reform yourself. Someone who pursues selfish desires and who is obedient to shaitan gradually turns the color of shaitan. You should decide at least in this month to control yourselves and to avoid speech and behavior which displease Allah the Supreme. Right now, in this very session, make a covenant with Allah that during this blessed month of Ramadan, you will avoid backbiting, slander, and speaking ill of others. Bring your tongue, eyes, hands, ears, and other organ and limbs under your control. Manage your deeds and your works. It is possible that the same worthy deeds will result in Allah's paying attention to you and blessing you. After the month of fasting, when the shaitan are released from their chains, you will have been reformed and you will no longer listen to the lies of shaitan and you will refine yourself. So let's think about it, this opportunity that we all have, Alhamdulillah, and then the great nights are coming, inshallah. Think about just not fasting by just avoiding food and water, but rather refine ourselves so that we get that blessing. And then when the month will end and when the shaitan will release, at least we can make ourselves strong enough to actually not fall into the shaitan's trap. If you observe that someone is about to backbite, prevent him and say to him that we have made a covenant that during these 30 days of Ramadan to keep ourselves from prohibited affairs. And if you are not able to keep him from backbiting, leave that session. Do not just sit there and listen. The Muslim must be safe from you. And this is so important. Sometimes we don't give importance, or we just, don't pay attention to backbiting because it's so routine in our day-to-day talk and day-to-day life. We need to think about and we have to stop this habit, inshallah. So someone from whose hands, tongue, and eyes other Muslims are not safe is not truly a Muslim. Although he may be outwardly and formally a Muslim who has formally proclaimed La ilaha illallah, if, God forbid, if you want to offend somebody, to slander them, or to backbite, you should know that you are in the presence of Lord. You are to be the guest of Allah the Almighty and in the presence of Allah. Because in this month, we all are the guest of Allah. We all are in the presence of Allah. So even each action, each deed, we have to be careful. We have to think about that we are, this is a very special month and we are the guest. We have to think about it. There's ayah in Quran chapter 30, ayah number 10, that says that then evil was the end of those who did evil because they rejected the signs of Allah and used to mock them. Allahu Akbar. So when the night of power, Laylatul Qadr, arrives, one will gain the illuminations which is obtained on that night by the friends of Allah and the believers. The reward of such a fast is God, as it has been reported. The fast is for me and I am its reward. Nothing else could be the reward of such a fast. I think this hadith, the fast is for me and I am its reward, it has so much depth. If you can think about it, that there can't be any other reward of this month other than the Allah and his nearness. So in the next chapter of the book, which is the veils of man, attention to other than God covers man with veils of darkness and light. If any worldly affair is a cause of man's attention to be directed toward the world and to neglect Allah the Exalted, it raises dark veils. All of the corporeal world are dark veils. If the word is a means of directing attention to the truth and for arriving at the abode of the hereafter, which is the abode of honor, then the dark veil are transformed into veils of light. So this is so powerful. I mean, whatever we do, if it is for Allah, if it is not for Allah, they will darken out. And if it is for Allah, inshallah, they will actually transform that darkness into the light. However, one who has not yet torn the veil of darkness, one who directs all of his attention to the natural world and, God forbid, become deviated from Allah, and one who is basically unaware of the world beyond and the spiritual worlds and has retrogressed to a state of nature, who has never decided to refine himself or herself, to set into motion his spiritual powers, to push aside the curtains of darkness which are a cloud over his heart. He is lodged in the deepest of the depth, that is hell, which is the ultimate veil. And as ayah goes, the Surah 95, ayah number 5, then we render him the lowest of the low. While the God of the words has created man in the most lofty state and station, as ayah before this ayah says that indeed we have created man in the best of the molds. So if you think and ponder about this, that Allah has created best of the molds. So and of course he wants to see best in us, actually, because he created man in the best of the molds. And then if we don't hold the expectation and even don't try and even never think about refining, and that the lowest of the low would be, as I says, that then we render him with the lowest of the low. The next chapter in that book is the first step in refinement. When an illness is accompanied by pain, it forces man to seek a cure, to consult a doctor, or to go to hospital. But an unfelt illness without pain is more dangerous. By the time one becomes aware of it, it's too late. And we all know it very well. Even in our day-to-day life, we have seen, people who have illness, the physical illness. Some are painful and some are not painful, and then they grow. For example, God forbid, if someone has cancer, and in some cases, some cancer, it only get detected at the last stage where you can't do anything. Because at the beginning, it's not paining. There's no pain. There's not much difficulties. So, and Alhamdulillah, there are physicians and doctors in this audience, and they can relate this. So if the illness is not painful, we are not aware of it. But what can be done about such dangerous diseases for which there is no pain? The illness of arrogance and selfishness are without pain. Allahu Akbar. If you think about it, the illness of arrogance and selfishness are without pain. Other sins corrupt the heart and the spirit without causing any pain. Not only are these illnesses unaccompanied by pain, but they also bring apparent pleasure. And this is the dangerous one. Meetings and sessions of backbitings are very warm and sweet. Love of self and love of the world, which are the root of all sins, are pleasurable. So let's take a moment and think about it, because as in his lecture, Imam Khomeini is mentioning the illness of arrogance and selfishness are without pain. So these diseases and sometimes sin, we find pleasure in this, and this is how shaitan actually pushes us toward the sin, because we find pleasure, we find some short happiness in a lot of sins. And because there is no pain, and even another level of danger is that there's a pleasure, and we just keep going into that trap. By time, surely man is lost, except for he who believes and does good works, and enjoin upon each other truth, and enjoin upon each other patience. This is ayah number 1 from 1 to 3 in surah number 103. So in this surah, the only expectations are the believers who perform good. Exceptions, the only exceptions are the believers who perform good works. Be aware lest love of the world and love of the self gradually increase within you, to the point that shaitan is able to take away your faith. And this is said that all of the efforts of the shaitan are for the sake of robbing faith. All of his effort and labors, nights and days, are for sake of taking away the faith of men. And this is so important, and I would like to take a moment here and think about it. We have to, I used to say that we have to understand how shaitan works, the modus operandi of the shaitan. We need to understand this. Otherwise, if I quote Imam Ali alayhi salam, that the shaitan has so much knowledge that you cannot even understand how much knowledge he has. I mean, imagine a makhluk, a jinn, who prayed Allah so much, who has so much knowledge that he, from this world, he ascended to another world, to the Jannah, and the angels were his servants. And that jinn, that shaitan, is now your greatest enemy, who has so much knowledge. And just not knowledge, from centuries, he has gained so much experience. And using his knowledge and experience, so the one side is that greatest enemy who has so much knowledge and he has gained so much experience, and then other side is I am standing the other side, who is so weak, so poor, so weak in faith. We have to understand how shaitan deceives us. So for you and me, shaitan is not gonna take you, for example, if I'm fasting, he's not gonna, lure me to just break my fast. He's not gonna do that, because I will not break my fast, I'm sure. If I'm sporting a beard, I'm not gonna shave it. He knows it. So he's not gonna waste time on those things. But he is going to corrupt my faith. And he is days and night is trying that to corrupt my faith. And we have to think about it, how shaitan works. When the faith is weakened or corrupt, no matter what I'm doing, the outcome is not what outcome should be. And then shaitan might be laughing, okay, you might be praying, but what was the point of praying? If you purify your intentions rectify your deeds, expel love of self and position from your hearts. A high station will be prepared for you. The whole world and what exists will be prepared for you. The whole world and what exists in it, along with its superficial aspect, is not worth even a cent by comparison to the station prepared for the righteous servant of Allah. Try to achieve this lofty station. And this is so important. And if I remind you what Imam Ali said, the lowest price for your nafs is Jannah. Think about what would be the highest if the lowest is the Jannah. However, if your behavior is of such a manner as is currently witnessed, then you have wasted your youth and the prime of your life has been passed in vain. In the other world also, various severe difficulties, calamities, and troubles will grab you by the neck, and you will fall into the whirlpool of misfortunes and disasters. So I'm gonna finish in next maybe couple minutes. So I just extracted some part from that book, and if Allah give us tawfiq, and if you could, it's a very short book, might take maybe 20-30 minutes to read, or maybe half an hour, depends on how fast you can read. I would like to recommend everyone, and again to remind myself to read it again, although these were just some part that I just wanted to read in front of you. So may Allah give us tawfiq so that we can read it again. There's so much in that book. So at the end, there's some selected quotations that I would like to mention here. The whole world and what exists in it, along with its superficial aspects, is not worth even a cent by comparison to the station prepared for the righteous servants of Allah. Think about it. What we are experiencing, no matter who we are, no matter how much word we have collected, how much position we have achieved, think about the high of the highest we can get in this world is not even a cent if you compare what Allah has prepared for us. If I just quote, not quote, if I just tell you, maybe a very long time, maybe when I was a teenager, I used to think that, in Jannah, because, my knowledge was what I heard during majalis and lectures, the Jannah will be like this and that. So in teenager, if I remember correctly, I used to think that the Jannah will be very boring. Because if you got everything, you're living there forever, and everything is already there. After some time, you'll get bored. It might be so boring. But here in this world, you are achieving something day by day, you are struggling, you see, yourself ascending. So during my childhood, I was just thinking about it. If you think that, I don't know if someone else may have a similar thought, but at least I had that kind of thought. The problem is we don't know much about the word that exists beyond this word. Since we don't know, we are careless, and we are now working on ourselves. if we have an idea that what kind of word we are going to get, that we will be busy our self-correcting. And then, as if I remember correctly, if there's a hadith that if Allah loves someone, he just makes sure that the person just keep busy correcting them, correcting their shortcomings. And then he is not wasting time for other things. Fear God, be aware of the aftermath of your deeds, wake up from the sleep of negligence. Hell is lit with the ugly works and deeds of man. Allahu Akbar. Take a step for the sake of Allah. Dispel the love of the word from your heart. Then you will be able to engage in combat, which is this Jihad Akbar, the jihad against our own nafs. So with that, I would like to stop here. May Allah accept our ibadat and give us tawfiq to work on ourselves, because there's so much to work on, at least that the life is not enough. There's so much. I mean, if you look at, nothing is perfect. I mean, I'm talking about myself. I don't know where to start. I mean, nothing is perfect. There's not much time. I don't know how much time it is. So we need to reflect. This is the blessed month of Ramadan. We can all reflect. We can all think this is the time before we get busy in our life, and then before the shaitan, who is chained, get released. We have to work on ourselves. So with that, I would stop here. So let's recite a Surah Fatiha and dedicate Sawab to all marhumin, ulama, shuhada, after a loud salawat. Allahumma salli ala